Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Lord Hath Broken the Staff of the Wicked. Pretty much this lesson comes to inspiration of some a video I was watching earlier, and also a couple of articles that I found as I was listening to the video. You know, some ideas came to mind through the spirit, and I looked them up. I typed in a couple of keywords, on the search engine, and pretty much got or found some articles that I would like to share with you in today's lesson. Now, there's just one particular chapter in mind for this lesson, and I have, some, like I said, some articles to share with you, and then the video, I don't want to play the video because I'm not sure if they'll give me a strike. So what I'm going to do is, since they made it the way they did it now on YouTube, they have a transcript, for the video. So I'm going to see how that works for me, going through the transcript and reading off some of the points that that they were bringing out in this video. In the video I'm talking about or speaking about, which I put in the description box along with all of these other articles, is from the Nomad Economist, which is really the Epic Economist. They just this is just another page that they have, but it's the Epic Economist. And pretty much the name of the video is The Truth About Nord Stream 2, the pipeline that will start World War III between Russia and the West. And pretty much this whole sanction against Russia, is really backfiring on America. And it's also stirring up these European countries, because these sanctions against Russia are really affecting certain European countries because they were trading with Russia and oil and natural gas and different other things. So it's really affecting them more. So some certain of these European nations are getting edgy, they're getting angry, they're getting upset. And that's all a part of Bible prophecy. See, the Lord is, maneuvering and controlling what's going on in the world today. Let's go real quick to Proverbs 21 and 1. It says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So these different sanctions and these different turmoils and, conflicts, disagreements that are happening around the world with these different nations is all the Lord stirring up that pot, because the pot is starting to brew, so the Lord is stirring up that pot for war, meaning World War III. And in the midst of this stirring up of this pot, the infrastructure for the MOTB is already in place. There's certain things that take place in the world, that are in the headlines, which take away the focus, of the majority of the people's attention on a particular, situation. Just like, you have the MOTB moving in the news, but it's not. Now Russia's up, up on top of the news, so they're not really focusing 100% on everything else that's going on, because they got the people's minds just dead set on Ukraine and Russia. But that's how the devil operates. But this is all done by the Heavenly Father. So now in this edition of the Atlantis Report, which is on the Nomad Economist channel, which is the same people, we're going to start here at 627. It says, sanctions are the modern version of laying siege to a country. After World War II, European countries became vassal states to the military-industrial complex and the U.S. Because remember, you know, America is the sole controller of all of these different European nations and allies of her, you know, and whatever they deem to be policy or rules or regulations, the legislations or whatever the case may be, America has the final say and they have the most sway. And these European countries are getting tired of carrying this whole. So let's just go to the main point and then we're going to jump back up, you know, once we, it's Revelation 17 and 18. Now this is dealing with Babylon the Great, as you see here, the doom of Babylon. It says, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city. Remember, we dealt with city, you know, Esau's interpretation or definition of the word city, you know, is just like a certain portion, you know, in a country you have is broken up into cities, but a city is as big as its citizens. You know, Elder Pastor said this years ago. You know, so a city is as big as its citizens. That's why no matter what state or what city or town or village or whatever the case may be that you live in the so-called U.S., you are what? A U.S. citizen. The word city goes back to the word citizen or citizenship. So this great city, that's why it says great, because it's a humongous city. It's 5,000 square miles, 2,000 north to south, and 3,000 east to west. So, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city. So this woman that we read about, beginning from the first verse down, when it speaks about this harlot, this woman that the Apostle John saw, is a representation of a great city. And that great city is what? America. And it says, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Why? Because her policies are set, you know, monetarily, you know, she is set, militarily she's set, policy making she is set, and she's the one that dictates, because everything is centered around what? Money, finance, economy, and this is why Maya Angelou said, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes the laws. You see, and this is why all of these nations are moving in that direction of allowing America to make these policies and, you know, be the policy setter or trend maker, because they are making money off of her. Now, I forget exactly what I typed in, but I came across this site here, which I didn't get a chance to put this in the comment section because I forgot about it until I actually pretty much had set up the already. But I put it in the comment section just now. So if anybody wants to go there, any brothers, you could go there. But this is ustr.gov/countries-regions, right? It says countries and regions. The United States is the world's largest trading nation with over 5.6 trillion in exports and exports of goods and services in 2019. The U.S. has the trade relations with more than 200 countries, territories, and regional associations around the globe. And this is why when we read in the book of Revelation, the 18th chapter, these nations are going to be upset, mad, and they're going to be wail because they're not going to be able to make the money that they're making now because of the costliness of this place. They can make it cheap, dirt cheap in their country and make profit of it here, big time profit, right? Then it says good exports. The United States is the second largest goods exporter in the world, all right? And you can read the rest of it. Goods imports. The United States is the largest goods importer in the world. U.S. goods imports from the world total 2.5 trillion in 2019, so on and so forth. Service exports. The United States is the largest service exporter in the world. All right. In 2019, U.S. exports of services were $875.8 billion. So on and so forth. Service imports. The United States is the largest services importer in the world. In 2019, U.S. imports of services were $588.4 billion. So on and so forth. Countries are coordinated by region in the resource center on the left. You can also find a specific country alphabetically. And then it gives you from A to Z. and it gives you all of the countries that America trades with, which I believe they said it was over 200 countries. So you got the Americas, which is what? Central and South America, Angola, Argentina. And you could scroll through here and you can see all of the nations that America is trading with, you know. And this is why she is known as Babylon the Great. And this is why the nations, when this place is destroyed, it says it's going to be standing afar off. Because most of them are going to see or witness this destruction from their country through the internet, you know. Because of the great, the costliness of this place and them nations making that money. That's why they allow America to do and set the policies that she does, because her form of money is the world reserve currency, which nations are trying to get out of it now. But the reason why is because the Lord has broken the scepter of the rulers. And they're on a downward spiral now. All right. So when we go here, it says, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And when we look up the word reigneth, the word there is echo. It says to have an example to hold. Yeah. And if America cuts you out, you do bad. That's why these nations don't mind bowing to this hoe. It says to have hold in the hand in the sense of wearing, to have hold possession of the mind. See? And through the finance, the economic part of it, they have sway and control of the people's minds. That's why if you want to really get in good with America, what do you have to do? You have to allow, democracy in your country. You have to allow America to, do whatever the hell she wants to do. Yep, America is the greatest consumer nation. That's right. As a brother said, Gabar Yahawada. It says, refers to alarm, agitating emotions, to hold fast, keep, to have or comprise or involve, to regard or consider or hold as, own, possess. So America is the holder and possessor of these nations. She controls them through her finances. And this is why Revelation, the 18th chapter, is so important, because it actually speaks about, the trade that takes place, and when the destruction come, how these nations are going to be, in a world of hurt, not because they care about this place, but because they won't be able to sell their wares here anymore. So it says, Revelation 17:1, and there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. So this great whore, why does the Lord call her a great whore? Because she's in bed with all these different nations. And her policies are set throughout the world. And if these nations want to play, they have to accept the policies and beliefs of the so-called American system, or what they call Americanization. And they have done that. That's why you have skyscrapers all over the world that started here in America, according to prophecy. That's why you have the different franchises, whether it's clothing, food, or whatever the clubs, or whatever the case is, all over the world, mimicking America. Why? Because these nations are in bed with America. That's why she is that great whore. And it says, and sitteth upon many waters. When you scroll down to the 15th verse, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Now, why does it say that the whore is sitting on all of these people? Because the people are carrying her. Just like when you read about the scarlet colored beast up above. Let's see, sitteth. The word is kathemahi. To sit down, seat oneself. To sit, be seated, of a place occupied. So pretty much America is the queen and the world is the throne. The people are carrying it, because when you have royalty doesn't walk on the ground. Royalty usually is carried. So the world is carrying this whole, because they want her goods, they want her benefits, they want her favor. It says to have a fixed abode to dwell. And this is why when we go here to Isaiah 47 and 1, it says, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Why? Because the people are carrying you. You are sitting high on the hog. But now it's time for you to go down. Why? Because the Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked. It says, sit on the ground, there is no throne. Right, because you're not going to be able to sit on the throne of the world. You're not going to be able to, ride on these people's backs anymore. Because they're the ones that's keeping you afloat. They're the ones that's keeping your kingdom going. It says, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. You ain't going to be called tender anymore. So it says to have a fixed abode to dwell. Right. So you're not going to be able to remain anymore because you are sitting on these people. America is known as the great melting pot. We were speaking about this. I'm not sure if it was at the camp or in the truck on the way to camp or back from the camp. We were speaking about the turn of the century when nations were coming over to this side of the world, to America, through Ellis Island. That is the great melting pot, America. And she has brought all nations in here, and all nations are in bed with her. Even so, the majority of these nations that were really poor, really didn't have much, they got rich off of selling their wares here in America, whether they were working here and sent money back to their country, or whether they made goods in their countries and sent them here to America and sold them here and became rich that way. This is how you have your Chinas and your Singapores and your different, other nations that are well-to-do now. They're so well-to-do that they're starting to back up off of that dollar. So let's go back to this transcript. Right. So now let's move on a little forward. Let's see. I got to let this. So where we at? Okay. The military industrial complex. Banking cabal, they've been on their knees ever since. So all of these nations have been on their knees ever since. Maybe their people are tired of living on their knees. See? And that's why in Revelation 17, it says, verse 2, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of a fornication, because they've all accepted America. Why? Because they were making money. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. This woman, being America, the great whore, that great city, the scarlet-colored beast represents, pretty much represents NATO and the EU, which America is sitting on top of. Full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, because that's the whole structure of the American, or should I say the whole structure of the Edomite empires, beginning with the Greeks, all the way up to the British, and America being the end of that, which is the 8th head that came from the 7. It says full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, right? It says, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color because of her decadence. That's why the scriptures call her a queen. And the queen is also synonymous with what? With being a harlot, a hoe. Because she's polyandros, which is what? Many husbands, many men. Many men. She lays down with many men. You see? And this is the reason why you're not supposed to give a woman that type of authority and power, because she will abuse herself with overmuch liberty. Everything in the scriptures is set up in perfect order. Perfect order. It says, and decked with gold. I'm sorry, this is the point was here. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So they're carrying her. So now, as we read in here, these nations are tired of living on their knees. They're tired of carrying this hoe. It says, for the past couple of decades, Russia has taken steps to isolate itself as much as possible from the US dollar and the Fed syndicate, which is why the CIA, spooks, military industrial complex, and bank cabal hate their guts and consider their enemy. Right? And that not only Russia and these different nations can't stand America. Let's go to Obadiah. Because America has helped all these different countries. Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is none understanding in him. You see? So pretty much all these nations that you've been confederate with, that were in agreements with you, that accepted your ways, your policies, allowed you to come into their country, dictate to them how to run their country because of the money you were giving them, they're getting tired of you now. They said, no more. Get out of my land, Yankee, get out of my land. Let's go real quick to Habakkuk chapter 2. So they're tired of your shit. Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. And see how all these scriptures all tie together? You know, Revelation 17 said that she made the world drunk. So how did she transgress or break the law? By her philosophies, her wine. Mainly this democracy that she's pushing upon the world. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Right, because they go everywhere in the world. Anything that happens around the world, you best believe America is involved in it, directly or indirectly. All right. Who enlargeth his desire as hell. Yeah. So pretty much you have amassed your wealth by what you've been doing. And this is why the scriptures speak about the rich man. Because you've used America as your patsy, as Anthony Hilder said, and pretty much you have enriched yourself even further through America. Yep, foreign policy equals wine. That's right. It says, and is as death and cannot be satisfied. Why is that? Because in the scriptures, let's see if I can find this real quick. This is in the book of Proverbs. This is the book of Proverbs 27 and 20. Barak the hell about your mouth shy. Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. And this is dealing with man in general, but it's really the Edomites, the so-called white man. So he's as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Why? This is that new world order, that one world government. This is why everything is being pushed digitally. It seems like the nations are doing it independently, but once everything goes online, it'll be an easy shift. It's just like when they set up the Federal Reserve System. It didn't pass at first because the egotistical maniac Nelson Aldrich put the Aldrich bill on it, and Paul Warburg said, "Don't put your name on it because they're gonna know it's a banking institute." But him, being an egotistical megalomaniac, put it on there, and guess what? It got shot down. So Paul Warburg went back to the drawing board. They took it, they sat down, they made provisions in it that seemed favorable to the government, to the people. And this dickhead, again, Nelson Aldrich, said, no, we don't want that. And they said, look, don't worry about it. We'll leave it in there. We want the bill passed. Once the bill is passed, then we can change it. So Paul Warburg, which was a German, he was the smart one. That's why it's good to speak about the wise men of Teman. And when they got it passed, guess what? They changed the provisions in it. And that's what they're doing right now. All these different nations are coming together. They're looking to set up something called the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, whatever means they want. And once they get it online, it'll be easy just to merge everything together into one. You see? Henceforth, bringing what? The prophecy of the MOTB, which is the charagma. And Carl Schwab's flunky, Hattori, he said, look, they tracking everybody. Whether what you buy, where you go, this, that, and the other. The only thing left now is to do it under the skin. So everything is being moved in that direction. And as it's being moved in that direction, America is being hated more and more by these nations. And eventually that's going to cause WW3. So it says, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his, how long? And there was a saying before, a Yankee, get out of my land, go home. You know, let's see if I can find that. Let's see what comes up. Let me see. Just bear with me. Oh man, this is heavy. This is an actual song. This is an actual song that personifies. This is called Yankee Go Home. Try Jamaica. It says, I think they'll take you, Honolulu. How do you do? I'll make a quick stop, my fair lady pill pop. Before catching the bus to go to good Lord knows where, what? Catch me, falling out of line. I'm calling upon North Carolina to help me out here. Salad Nicole. I had that before. That's a good salad. Good to meet you. Carcassonne Hun. Stands, so like I don't speak the patois, so stands next to no one. The rake at the door has been taking a tour of this tar and feather land, and good Lord knows that I am now falling out of line. I'm calling upon North Carolina to help me out again. Yankee go home, Yankee go home. The gas prices are getting higher as the rain falls upon dry land. Yankee go home. Our senses burn, man, when the deck hand plays a flute with reminds me of you, oh, but there's a land in the distance that might have some patience and girls who are singing or strangers and sailors. There are gunfights, there are neckties, a little history, a little sunlight, all right. They say Yankee go home, Yankee go home, Yankee go home, Yankee go home. The gas prices are getting higher as the rain falls upon the dry land. Yankee go home, Yankee go home. Or Yankee go home. But I was trying to see, okay, so it's Clap Your Hands. Song by Clap Your Hands. Let's see. Let me get rid of this. All right. Let me get rid of that. Let me see if that what comes up if I put this. Yankee definition. War. Let's see. Yankee. What is the origin and spread of the phrase Yankee go home? Yankee go home is a saying that has been printed on many images. The original banner was displayed by East Germany youth at the march in Berlin on the Unter den Linden. On May 28, 1950, the banner shows a Soviet officer telling an American holding out the Marshall Plan that the United States is not wanted. The Yankee go home message was East German communist propaganda. The Yankee go home expression usually reflects anti-Americanism, but sometimes it reflects southern states' anger against the northern states. Mobile, Alabama, an Illinois woman writes to the Voice that Southerners should quit the stars and bars. Yeah, but it also goes into how these nations don't want you. They don't want you around. That's why it says, woe to him that increaseth that which is his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And the thick clay is a representation of what? Of heavy debt. Ibatyat. Shall not they rise up suddenly? So we're going to get back to this. That shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. So let's go back to here. But cabal hate their guts and consider them their enemy. I think many of the vassal states are I think many of the vassal states taking notice. War threatenings the Nord Stream equals to threatening the EU energy security. Ukraine would make a lot of money by building new pipes, increasing transit, but they have to do that. They had to do what the U.S. tells them to do and have no right now for a pro-Ukrainian position. Only pro-U.S. See? Why? Because America is the one that's writing these policies. It says Germany, France, and Russia could create an entente that would operate over the heads of the EU countries and replace the U.S. as a rules maker. Why? Because this whole, let's see, is the one, let me see. Right, they replace the U.S. rule makers. The U.S. as a rules maker. Why? Because she is the one that is governing over these nations. Hence, Revelation 17:18, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And if you reign over the kings of the earth, you are the one that dictates the policies. You make the rules. I think Cole has had this in mind, combined with China at least in operational matters like evading SWIFT and the dollar, monetary economic dog collar. These powers could make a truly multipolar world. It says their combined military and green men capabilities could create an impossible whack-a-mole challenge for a nation already crumbling due to the vast sum spent on defense, which is in the interest of the vast majority of American people rather than the professionals who run U.S. foreign policy. According to recent surveys, the general population in Germany sees the USA. All right, hold up. The world sees the USA as the most significant foreign threat. A majority of Germans want good. So is not Germany a part of the EU? Is not Germany a part of NATO? So they're seeing that America is the biggest threat to their future. And Germany's catching hell because the majority, I believe, was like more than half of their energy sources comes from Russia. So what's happening here is not affecting America as it's affecting these different European countries that rely on this Russian oil and Russian resources. All right. Let's see what else we got. A majority of Germans want good relations with Russia, especially the industry wants to trade with rule. Everything else is transatlantic propaganda. I suspect every country has had the same sentiment ever since Americans showed they were untrustworthy and unscrupulous since 1945 in Bretton Woods. The USA has had a captive audience. Why? Because all nations are following behind her. Why? Because they want to be able to receive those benefits. It says that is changing. See, Exxon and Chevron and all the rest of the U.S. companies get U.S. military backing to plunder the planet for energy resources, while Russia is a terrorist country for selling its own natural gas from within its own borders to a willing buyer. The American way, established in 1945, every day, every topic, every country, the U.S. cartel wants to know what's in it for them. We're protecting you from your neighbors. Now pay up or you'll never see your family again. Let me go here. What is that? Never see your family again. Look at it this way. With the U.S. deficit at $1.2 trillion, every cent of the U.S. defense budget is borrowed. It is someone else's money. Every USAF Air Force plane, every nuclear sub, every U.S. Marine, every U.S. Navy ship, every bomb, every U.S. vehicle, every gallon of gas the U.S. military consumes, it's all borrowed money. Let me paint you this picture. Nord Stream 2 bypasses Ukraine and its energy company Burisma. Germany buying directly from Gazprom is bad for Burisma. Congress votes bipartisan on sanctions against Nord Stream, which will benefit Burisma. Bidens are deeply involved with Burisma, probably a whole many more Congress. And that's why they call it a monopoly. And that's why the scriptures say that they could never have enough. Okay. Probably a whole many more Congress critters. Impeachments will go away now that the votes have been brought for sanctions against North. Let's see. Take down. Let's see. Clinton's charge running. It says, even during the coldest days of the Cold War, Europe bought gas from Russia. It was a mutually benefiting cooperation. The Cold War is over despite NATO trying to reignite it. This new gas relation with Russia is... Europe is waking up to the screw the here we go. Europe is waking up to the screw the EU agenda of America in Europe, and Europe is now saying fuck F the USA. Brexit is a done deal. The US basically killed the WHO. Europe will definitely move east. I highly doubt that our administration knows the USSR supplied gas to Europe. And see, when we go to Daniel, the 7th chapter, because America's pretty much looking down on these nations. They just use them for whatever they can use them, and then after that they discard them, regardless of if they're allies or not. Daniel 7:19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devour, break in pieces, and stamp the residue with his feet. Yeah, and the ancient Roman Empire's military was exceeding strong like iron. Just like America today, which is the modern day Roman Empire, is exceeding strong with their military. And it's far more powerful than the ancient Roman Empire. You know? It says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, which is the EU, and of the other which came up, which is America, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things. That's dealing with America. And this is the mouthpiece pretty much of the world. It says, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Right. So they look down upon these nations, even their own Edomite kind, among, the EU. And the word stout is Rob, which is great, captain, chief. Stout. I believe the scriptures speak about the stout heart of something. Stout. Meaning, it says of a person somewhat fat or of heavy build, of an object strong and thick, a kind of strong dark brute. So pretty much they're like looking down upon these different nations. All right, and they're getting tired of it. They are getting tired of it. Yeah, the U.S. is now one in independent Europe. The U.S. wants control of its lapdogs. See? The more the U.S. tries to force and dictate its dominance over others, the faster it will lose the few allies it has left. It says to push This push to always choose the path of confrontation is strange and self-defeating. The U.S. sure knows how to make enemies. See? So, let's go real quick here to Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So they're going to hate the whore. And we're seeing all of the reasons and the ways in which these European countries that are allies with America hate her. Miseo, to hate, pursue with hatred, detest. And why is that happening? Why are they hating? Why is the Most High making America do what they do? Well, we just read in Proverbs 21, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the Lord is making all of these differences and this tense feeling amongst these different nations against America, right? And then it goes on to say, for the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. And that's the bottom line. So when we go here, this is the rule maker race, right? It says, in the coming decades, a question of who sets the global rules, standards, and norms guiding technology, trade, and economic development will be paramount. Having lost their exclusive prerogative in this domain, some Western governments have begun to rethink the universality of the rules-based order. Now we jump down to right here. It says, let's start here. Over the last decade, however, the free market Washington consensus has been challenged by a Beijing consensus of managed globalization, industrial policy, and state capitalism. While the Brussels effect has run up against a potential Beijing effect, China's export of technology standards through its digital Silk Road. See, everything is being moved digital. Moreover, many global rule-setting bodies that once underpinned European and American predominance now have Chinese leaders. Right. And the word underpin means support a building or other structure from below by laying a solid foundation below ground level, or by substituting stronger for weaker material. So basically, the global rule setting was on the shoulders, so to speak, of European and America, of Europe and America. But now it's slowly but surely transferring over to Chinese leaders. And that's why they think that they got next. That's why the Russians think that they got next. But they were both wrong. One thought he could fly. The other one thought he was invincible. They were both wrong. Inside joke. Here we got from rule maker to rule taker. I just want to jump down to the main point. The shift of the United States from global rule maker to rule breaker is likely to end in the country becoming a mere rule taker. Indeed, U.S. allies and other trading partners are moving ahead with economic arrangements that do not include the United States on terms that are likely to harm U.S. interests. The European Union and Japan this month signed a sweeping Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA, that will establish new trade rules for an economic area representing over 1/4 of the global economy. Why? Let's go to Isaiah 14:4. That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. So the Lord is systematically breaking this place apart. You know? But the thing is that the nations still make money from this place by selling their goods here. But what they're doing is they're getting away from using the dollar to pay for stuff, because it's pretty much causing them to be in more debt. You know, it's costing them more to pay for certain things, you know, using the US dollar. That's why a lot of them are moving out of it. making trades among themselves, but still leaving the door open with enough FRNs, there to be able to still do trade in or should I say to do business in America. It says, and the scepter of the rulers, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. Yeah. So you're being brought down. Good. All right. And I didn't get a chance to read this one. Can the United States be the global rule maker again? Because they're losing that status. And like I said, I put all of these in the description box. So those of you brothers that, get into, I could think of a couple brothers right now that really get into stuff like this, because it's all part of prophecy, dealing with the economy. And this is why the Elder Apostle Tahar always says, you have to get into those different economic, the economic terms and things that they're speaking about dealing with the economy, because that is a very important part of prophecy. As you see wars, you see the MOTB, the financial system, everything being pushed to go online. Why? Because they have an agenda to get the charagma into the world so that they can control everything and get a piece of everything. Nothing would move. Nothing would be sold without them getting a piece of it, no matter how big or how small a deal it may be. If it's a penny, they want a piece of it. If it's a $1 trillion, they want a piece of it. If it's a crumb, they want a crumb from the crumb. These devils can never have enough. It says, verse 7, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon saying, says, thou art laid down, no feller has come up against us. Yeah, because all of these things that you're doing, imposing your will on these nations, bringing these sanctions, is going to cause what? War. And that war, which is World War III, is going to eventually blow you off the map. And once you get blown off the map, everything is going to go back to peace, being peaceful again. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming, because hell represents death. And that's what's coming to you, because prophecy and the scriptures say what? Right here in Revelation 17 and 8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, which is Europe. This is dealing with America, coming out of Europe. And what? And go into perdition. And that's why it says, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. And what's going to bring this about? This World War III. It stirreth up the dead for thee, dealing with the nations, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. Yeah, because they've had enough of your bullshit. They're tired of your shit. They're tired of you pushing them around. Now it's time for them to do a little pushing themselves. That's why back in Habakkuk, it says, verse 7, 2 and 7, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. Why? Because the goods, that they have in their country, or whatever they have, or whatever monies they may owe you, when you're destroyed, they don't got to pay you. So they right now they're starting to make you hemorrhage. It says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. You're gonna catch hell. You Edomites, you so-called white people, you're gonna catch hell. Especially you banking elite, so-called banking elite. You are going to get it because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. So you got to pay for all of this. You are greedy to want a piece of everything, of everybody, of every crumb, of every pie, of every cake. Well, guess what? You're going to pay for everything that you've done in weight and measure. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high. And that's what you've done. You ripped the world off so that you can be in a prominent lofty, position where you have no want for anything, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people. And right now your shame is being showed to the world. You see? And has sinned against thy soul. For the stone shall cry out of this wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it, dealing with the destruction that's coming. There ain't going to be nothing left. Woe to him that buildeth the town with blood, and establisheth the city by iniquity. Why? Because it's going to be brought down by the same fashion, by the same way. Let's go real quick to the book of Revelation 18 and 21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. You like to bring violence on people? You like to terrorize people? You like to spoil people? You like to deal treacherously with people? They're going to deal treacherously with you and spoil you once you finish your bullshit. Because it said when you were about to eat, the Lord's going to rain this hell down upon you. Bottom line. So let's look up this word, violence. Let's stop the violence. Violence. Hormeimah. A rush. Impulse. That which is impelled or hurried away by impulse. Right. Meaning what? Suddenly. Let's go real quick to Isaiah 47, which you were there earlier. Isaiah 47:11. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off. Why? Because it's commissioned by the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Why? Because you did not consider your latter end. So we look up this word suddenly. And I'm not talking about that R&B song, Life Has No Meaning to Me. Suddenly you're going to be put down. Patha'am, which comes from the root word pathai, which means suddenly, surprisingly, suddenness. Yeah, you're going to be astounded. Because you're going to be like, how did this happen? We had everything planned out. We had plans for continuity of government. We had, shelters. We have different shelters where all they have is just the different documentations and records, for when this whole place goes down. How did this happen? Because you didn't consider your latter end. So going back, that's the word violence. So back in Habakkuk 2:13, behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity? Yeah, because you're not going to be able to keep your society afloat, because it's already been destined. America has already been destroyed in another dimension. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Woe unto him, that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. See? Because it's being revealed. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee. And that's what's happening. What's the cup of the Lord's right hand? His words, which is being spoken by his prophets. And shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Right. So the stain of how you got everything is going to be the main witness against you. Read Job, the 20th chapter. So that's pretty much it on that. Back in Isaiah 14:10, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials, all this bullshit that you've put out here, this bad music and, this demonic, spirit that you got here out here is going to all be put down. It says the worm is spread under thee and the worms cover thee. Yeah, because your society, is physically corrupted, by your infrastructure, but it's also morally and spiritually corrupted. And you're going down with it. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? So how did you fall from this great state that you were in? This lofty state, this heavenly state that you were in, sitting up on a throne, being fared sumptuously every day. O Lucifer, you are Illuminati, son of the morning. O day star, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? So pretty much that's what's happening. So how the Lord had broken the staff of the wicked. Who is the wicked? The Edomites. You so-called white people, so you could understand. You are the wicked, beginning with your bankers. If your line goes back to the Edomites, then that's who you are. If you happen to look like a white person and your line goes back to Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, guess what? You are an Israelite. If you happen to look like a so-called white people and down the line your fathers are Hamites, then guess what? You're a so-called white-looking Hamite, Ammonite, Moabite, Ishmaelite, whatever the case may be. All right. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified, and you few sisters. And to the next time I say, Shalom.